You know what nobody tells women when they walk away from good men? That the road ahead isn't freedom. It's a slow unraveling disguised as empowerment. Everyone will clap for her decision at first. Her friends will call it brave, society will call it progress, and she'll post that carefully worded quote about choosing herself. But beneath all that applause is silence, the kind that creeps in when the noise of validation fades, and she finally has to live with what she's done. At first, she'll feel high on it. There's a certain intoxication that comes with burning down something stable. She'll redecorate, change her hair, maybe even change her number. She'll say things like, "I feel lighter," or "I can finally breathe." But what she doesn't realize is that the air she's breathing now is thin, and you can't live on thin air for long. A woman doesn't just leave a man, she leaves a mirror, the reflection that kept her accountable, the man who saw her without the mask, who remembered who she was before the world told her she could have it all. When she walks away, she thinks she's leaving you behind, but what she's really leaving is the version of herself that only existed because you loved her into stability. The first few weeks feel like liberation. Her phone lights up, the world feels open again, and she tells herself the chapter is closed. But there's something strange about human psychology. The more we tell ourselves we've moved on, the more our subconscious starts taking inventory of what we've actually lost. She'll laugh louder, post more, stay busier, all to prove she's fine. But every performance has an expiration date, and this one comes faster than she expects. Then the memories start sneaking in. Not the big ones, the small, microscopic ones that no one else would understand. The way you made coffee in the morning, the quiet drives, the shared glances that said more than words ever could. Those moments become ghosts, haunting her at random hours, showing up in smells, songs, or a man's voice that sounds almost, but not quite, like yours. And here's the cruel paradox. She won't miss you at first. She'll miss the version of herself she was when you loved her. The grounded woman, the safe woman, the one who didn't have to constantly perform strength because she knew she was protected. But she won't realize that yet. Instead, she'll double down on independence, trying to convince herself that solitude is power. Her friends will toast to her freedom. They'll say, "You deserve better." But what they won't mention is that the better they're imagining doesn't exist in the world she's about to enter, because good men are not common. They're built, not found, and she just walked away from one. She'll notice it slowly, the way new men talk to her, transactional, shallow, distracted, the way they listen only until it's their turn to speak. She'll sense the difference before she admits it. That quiet care you gave her, that patience, that masculine steadiness that never had to announce itself, it's gone. And what replaces it is noise, the buzzing of men who want to use her glow but not protect it. That's when she'll start rewriting the story. We weren't compatible. He changed. It wasn't meant to be. All the common scripts women use to soothe the ache of self-inflicted loss. But beneath those rationalizations is something deeper, a whisper that says, maybe the problem wasn't him. Maybe it was me. She'll drown that thought out quickly, not because it's untrue, but because it's unbearable. Because facing it would mean admitting she left something real for something imaginary. And that's where her journey truly begins. Not the outward one she posts about, but the silent psychological descent that no one warns her about. The one that starts when the excitement fades, the texts slow down, and she's alone with her own echo, asking a question she never thought she'd have to ask. What if the man I left was the best I'll ever have? The first few months after she walks away are intoxicating. It's the honeymoon with herself, the glow-up phase, the finally free phase. She wakes up early, posts pictures with sunlight on her face, and writes captions about peace and growth. She's not really healing. She's advertising her escape. There's a difference. Healing is quiet, painful, humbling. Advertising looks like freedom, but it's fueled by anxiety. Because if she stops performing happiness, she might have to feel the emptiness underneath it. She'll fill her calendar with distractions, brunches, Pilates, solo trips, nights out with friends who are equally lost, but dressed like they've figured it out. They'll raise glasses to independence, to never settling again, and she'll believe it for a while. Every compliment, every like, every "you're glowing" gives her a hit of dopamine that feels like proof she made the right decision. She thinks she's evolving. But what's really happening is that she's floating above reality, running on validation fumes. Soon she'll test the waters of dating again. At first it's thrilling, messages pouring in, strangers calling her beautiful, invitations, attention. The kind of attention she hasn't felt in years. She mistakes it for connection. She tells herself that these new men see her in a way you never did. What she doesn't realize is that they're not seeing her at all. They're seeing opportunity. She's novelty, fresh territory, a challenge, a chance to conquer a woman who once belonged to someone else. The first dates go well. There's laughter, flattery, even chemistry. But then comes the part that catches her off guard. The silence after. The lack of depth. The transactional tone of it all. No emotional safety, no shared history, no warmth that lingers after the conversation ends. And for the first time, she feels something she hasn't felt in years. Not rejection, but disconnection. She'll brush it off, blame it on bad luck, and swipe again. But with each new conversation, something feels off. These men don't remember her favorite coffee. They don't care about her anxieties or her small human habits. They don't study her moods. They don't listen with intention. They're not invested in the person. They're invested in the possibility. And slowly, a quiet unease begins to settle in. Because deep down, she starts to compare. Not consciously, not out loud, but involuntarily. The way one man's voice lacks calm, the way another's humor feels forced, the way none of them look at her with that mix of admiration and steadiness you once had when she walked into a room. Her brain begins pattern matching, every man measured against you, the one she swore she was done with. But she can't admit this comparison. That would mean confronting a truth she's not ready to face, that the man she left was not ordinary, that his consistency, his patience, his loyalty weren't generic traits. They were rare, extinct even. So she doubles down again. More outings, more travel, more experiments in self-reinvention. She's chasing the high of new beginnings because sitting still means hearing the echoes of what she destroyed. But no amount of movement can quiet the mind when regret starts whispering. At night, when the laughter fades and the house is silent, she feels the drop, that heavy, invisible descent that comes when the illusion of control slips away. She scrolls through her phone, old photos, old messages. She tells herself it's just nostalgia. But nostalgia is a liar. It's memory filtered through loneliness. And in those quiet moments, she starts to feel the weight of what she traded. A man who stayed through her storms for men who vanish when the wind changes direction. A home for a revolving door. Depth for distraction. That's when the cracks begin to show. Tiny at first, then spreading through every story she told herself. The story of empowerment, of freedom, of self-discovery. They all start to sound rehearsed. And her reflection in the mirror begins to look less like a woman who found herself, and more like one trying desperately not to admit that she's lost. It starts subtly, a restlessness she can't quite name. Days that used to feel exciting now feel repetitive. Nights that were once filled with laughter and music suddenly feel too quiet. She scrolls through her phone, through her new contacts, through her old texts with you. Not because she misses you, she tells herself, but because she's just curious. It's the kind of curiosity that hurts, the kind that only appears when the performance of moving on starts to collapse under its own weight. She begins noticing how temporary everything feels. The men who seemed charming now seem childish. The ones who were funny now come off as shallow. The ones who said all the right things never follow through. Every good morning text feels automated. Every date feels like déjà vu. And she realizes something cruel. That intimacy without emotional safety isn't intimacy at all. It's noise pretending to be connection. The cracks widen. She starts noticing how no one actually checks on her anymore, not in the way you did. When you used to ask, "How was your day?" you listen to the answer. These men ask just to fill silence. She laughs less now, smiles more for the camera than for her soul. The compliments that once made her blush now feel empty, predictable, hollow. And then, one night, it happens. The collapse she didn't see coming. She's lying in bed, surrounded by the glow of her phone, and she realizes there's no one to text who truly knows her. Not her moods, not her fears, not her rhythm. The person who knew her best is gone, not because he stopped loving her, but because she taught him to. That realization lands like a brick in her chest. This is when panic sets in. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet kind that settles in the gut. It's not fear of being alone. It's the recognition that maybe she made a mistake too big to undo. But she can't admit it. Pride won't allow it. So she hides it behind activity. Gym memberships, new hobbies, new men. Anything that makes her feel like she's still progressing. But progress built on avoidance is just motion. And motion without direction is chaos. She starts rewriting history. He was controlling. He didn't understand me. We just grew apart. But the lies don't stick as easily anymore. Her mind begins fighting back, replaying memories she thought she buried. The way you looked at her when she laughed, the times you stayed calm when she pushed you away, the times you chose her even when she wasn't easy to love. The more she tries to vilify you, the more her subconscious paints you as the safe harbor she abandoned. She starts dreaming about you, not romantically but symbolically, you showing up in strange ways, sometimes silent, sometimes distant, but always there. Her brain is trying to reconcile two worlds, the fantasy of freedom she built and the reality of what that freedom cost her. It's called cognitive dissonance, the psychological war between her story and her truth, and every day that war drains her more. Her friends start noticing the change. She's quieter now, less certain. The fire she once had when she talked about starting over is gone. They'll say she's just tired, that healing takes time. But she knows it's not fatigue, it's grief. Grief for the life she had, the man she lost, and the woman she used to be when she was still loved by a good man. She used to think you'd be the one who couldn't move on, that you'd chase, regret, maybe even beg. But men like you don't beg, you rebuild. While she's learning that independence isn't as glamorous as it looked on paper, you're out there rediscovering your rhythm. You're sharper now, calmer, wiser, and that terrifies her. Because deep down, she knows that the man she left has already evolved into the one she'll spend years trying to find again. And that's when regret starts to bloom. Not loud, but deep. Not the kind that cries. The kind that lingers in quiet moments, that whispers during long drives, that sits beside her when she realizes every man she meets is a downgrade, not because they're bad, but because they're not you. There's a moment every woman who walks away from a good man eventually faces. It doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in, slow and cold, like water seeping through cracks in a wall. She might be sitting in traffic one evening, or washing dishes, or scrolling through old photos when it hits her. She's no longer the woman who was loved. She's just the woman who left. And that realization stings deeper than heartbreak ever did. By now, her old story has lost its shine. I had to do what's best for me. We grew apart. He didn't make me happy. Words that once felt empowering now sound hollow, like echoes in an empty room. Because the truth is, she didn't leave for happiness. She left for a feeling. And feelings are terrible navigators. They fade fast, especially when they meet reality. Reality looks like this. waking up alone to a quiet house that used to be full of warmth, making dinner for one, no one to talk to about her day, no one to protect her from the small chaos of life. And the silence that used to feel peaceful now hums with something heavier, regret. Regret that she disguised as independence for too long. She scrolls through her social media and sees him, you, not broken, not bitter, not begging. You've changed. You look sharper, calmer, maybe even happier. There's a light in your eyes that wasn't there before, and she realizes with a mix of pride and dread, she was the storm that forced you to rebuild. Her leaving became your catalyst. Her loss became your evolution. And nothing unsettles a woman more than seeing the man she underestimated become the man she always wanted. Her friends don't get it. They tell her, "You'll find someone better." But those words feel childish now. She's seen enough of the dating world to know that good men don't line up waiting. They vanish, they adapt, they grow, they move on quietly, like you did. And when a man like you heals, he never returns to the same place she left him in. He becomes untouchable, not in arrogance, but in peace. You know what's poetic about it all? The same man she once took for granted becomes the one the universe now uses to humble her. Every time she sees a happy couple, every time she scrolls past a photo of a man holding his woman's hand with quiet devotion, she'll feel that sharp, familiar ache, the realization that once upon a time, that was her life, that was her safety, that was her peace. But she mistook peace for boredom and stability for stagnation. She mistook a good man's patience for weakness, and by the time she learned the difference, he had already become someone she could no longer reach. Because good men don't hate the women who hurt them, they outgrow them. They rise from the ashes, not to prove a point, but to protect their peace. And nothing cuts deeper than watching a man you once diminished become everything you ever wanted. It's not revenge, it's revelation. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't gloat, doesn't need validation. It's the quiet kind that glows through a man's composure, through his laughter that no longer hides pain, through his eyes that no longer search for answers in people who never deserved his loyalty. And she'll remember how he used to listen, how he stayed when things got ugly, how he saw her worst and still believed in her best. And that memory will haunt her, not because she wants him back, but because she finally understands what real love looked like when it was hers. She'll wish she had one more chance to sit in the same room with him, not to fix things, but just to feel that peace again. But peace is something she traded for attention, and attention fades faster than truth. Years later, she'll still think of him, not every day, but often enough that the thought still stings. She'll wonder what would have happened if she had stayed, if she had paused before walking away, if she had recognized that a man who shows up every day, who stays loyal even when unappreciated, is not boring. He's rare. But hindsight is the cruelest teacher. It gives the lesson after the final exam. So to every man watching this who's ever been left, understand this. She may have walked away, but you're the one who truly moved on. You turned heartbreak into armor, pain into power, silence into focus. And now you live rent-free in the part of her mind where regret sleeps. That's not ego, that's justice. Because in the end, it's not her loss that defines you, it's your rebirth. So take this moment as a reminder. Never chase someone who doesn't see your value. Never beg to be understood by the blind. Let her go and become the man she'll never get over. And if these words resonated with you, brother, if they woke something in your spirit or reminded you of your worth, then do one thing for yourself and for every man fighting through that silence. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, subscribe to the channel, and if you believe in this message, support the movement through the link in the description. Because men like you, steady, loyal, relentless, deserve to rise again. And one day, when she sees the man you've become, she won't just miss you, she'll finally understand what she threw away. And you'll finally understand why she had to leave for you to become who you were meant to be. That's the reckoning, when the illusion of infinite options dies, when she realizes that men don't orbit her forever, that love isn't guaranteed to wait while she explores herself, that good enough might have been more than enough. It's the night she lies awake replaying your arguments, realizing that half the things she blamed you for were reflections of her own restlessness. And yet, she can't just call you. She drafts messages she'll never send. I've been thinking about you. I saw something that reminded me of us. Hope you're doing well. Simple words, loaded with meaning. But pride holds her hostage, because admitting she misses you means admitting she was wrong. And some women would rather suffer silently than face that kind of truth. She'll bury herself in self-improvement now. Books, therapy, meditation. She'll say she's healing. But healing from what? From a man who loved her? From stability? From being understood? What she's really doing is trying to rebuild an identity that makes sense without you. But every attempt feels forced, incomplete. Because no matter how far she runs, part of her story ends with your name. The real tragedy is that she'll start to see your presence everywhere. The way a stranger laughs, the smell of a certain coffee, a song playing in the background of a grocery store. These fragments become reminders that real love doesn't vanish. It lingers, woven into the fabric of ordinary life. But she can't touch it anymore. She traded it for freedom that doesn't feel free. And deep down, she knows. She didn't walk away from a bad man. She walked away from the man who would have stayed. There's always one night that breaks her. Not with screaming or tears, those came and went, but with silence. She's sitting alone, maybe after another date that went nowhere, maybe after seeing your photo online with someone new, and the truth lands so quietly, it almost feels merciful. He really moved on, and I really lost him. That's when her world tilts. Every rationalization she built, every story about incompatibility, about deserving better, about finding herself, collapses under the weight of one unfiltered truth. She walked away from a man who would have done anything for her. She thought there would always be time to come back. She thought you'd wait, that your love would linger like an open door. But men like you don't wait forever. You wait until you learn how to live without her, and then you never look back. Her friends are gone now too. The ones who encouraged her to live her truth have faded into their own lives. The calls are less frequent. The invitations stop. She's no one's project anymore, just another woman who left what was good and doesn't know how to rebuild what's gone. Loneliness becomes her shadow. Not the romantic kind she can post about, but the real kind. The one that creeps in during dinner, when there's only one plate on the table, one laugh missing from the room. She tells herself she's fine, she's independent. But the nights tell a different story. The bed feels bigger now, the walls echo louder, and the body remembers the small things, the warmth of your hand, the steadiness of your voice, the way you looked at her when she didn't even feel beautiful. She used to roll her eyes at those moments, call them routine. Now she'd trade every date, every compliment, every illusion of freedom just to feel that routine again. The irony is cruel, because by the time she realizes what she lost, you've become the man she always wished you'd be. Confident, calm, self-contained. The kind of man who no longer needs her validation to feel whole. She'll see it in your posture, in your tone, in the quiet certainty that comes from surviving heartbreak and turning it into discipline. And that sight will undo her. She'll want to reach out, but she won't. Pride still chains her to silence. She'll wait for the right moment. Your birthday, a memory, an excuse to say hey, but by then, you'll be too far gone. Maybe in love again, maybe simply at peace. Either way, unreachable. And that's her punishment. Not karma, not revenge, just awareness. Awareness that she left something rare. Awareness that no matter how much she evolves, no one will ever love her in that same steady, selfless way again. Because good men don't circle back. They grow forward. So when people ask what awaits women when they walk away from good men, the answer is simple but brutal. Emptiness disguised as freedom, attention that never equals connection, regret that matures with time, and memories that age like ghosts. They get what they asked for, but lose what they needed. And by the time they understand the difference, it's far too late. Because you, the man she once dismissed as ordinary, became the man she'll measure every future love against. And none of them will ever be enough.